Hey guys, Connor Richards of PokerNews here at the 2024 WSOP in Las Vegas, and this is Life Outside Poker. My guest for this episode is legendary UFC ring announcer Bruce Buffer, who gave me an exclusive in-depth interview following his final table finish in the 50K high roller here at the WSOP. All right, Bruce, well, super excited to talk to you. This podcast is Life Outside Poker, so I like talking to people in the poker world who also have interesting stories outside of it. So you are a perfect person to talk to. I want to talk to you about commentating, being the voice of the UFC, but let's start off more topical because we're at the World Series of Poker, and you just final tabled this $50,000 buy-in event. Talk about your run in that event.
It was a hell of a run. I won 2 bullets. I came back yesterday, and you start with 300,000 chips, and the blinds were, I maybe had 15 blinds. And it's a matter of patience and what I call BSC, ball skill and confidence. You need a 20% luck factor to win these things. And I was playing the best pros in the world, which really some people get intimidated. I don't. They're all flesh and blood. And I played, many of them before. So I just wanted to play my game, and I just believed I could see the prize at the end of the rainbow, the pot of gold. And patience is key, and just went for it.
Yeah, I wanted to do this interview with you, so I was kind of following you yesterday. Saw you buy in on day 2 at the end of late registration, and one minute I look, you have maybe 150,000 in chips, which I think was a starting stack. Next minute you have 1.5 million. How did that happen?
You pick your spots. You wait for the right spot. I mean, I was looking at the players at the table that all say play the player, not the cards. And there was one fella, this guy Martin, that eventually sat at my table.
Was that Martin Cabral?
Yeah, very
loud one.
Very loud, but fun, nice guy. People might not like playing with him, but he actually helped me analyze the players I'm playing, and it was very helpful to me to figure out the players and the way they were playing. So I just picked my spots, and patience is key. Patience is so key.
Martin Cabral is an interesting player. He's had some controversies before. Maybe some people think that he's annoying. You said that you didn't mind it, though?
No, I didn't mind him at all.
Yeah.
No, he's very nice to me, and it was funny.
How about the other players? Like you said, this was a stacked field. So here on day 2, some of the people at the final table, Victor Blom, Jesse Launis, Chance Kornuth, Sergio Aido, all these guys are crushers. Anyone give you a particularly hard time?
No, I don't. It's poker.
Yeah.
It's like everybody was nice, everybody's cool. They're all playing their game. Spanish people relaxing, not talking very much. Jesse was very cool. Made a couple new friends. Didn't feel bad about anybody there. I was very, very comfortable playing the whole thing. I had to pick my spots because I was short stacked literally, except when I get up to about 2.6 million after I doubled up on kings on the third hand, today, which was a really good feeling going into this tournament.
Yeah, that's nice.
The way they were.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about today. You mentioned that early on you doubled up with kings, and there were 2 tables left when players came back today, and then you ended up making the final table. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other big hands that stood out, obviously, other than the Bustout hand?
I was lucky to get the kings. The ace-king on the end, got me. Ace-king suited. I remember when I made my first final table at the World Poker Tour in 2015, ace-king suited. Didn't work for me there either, as much as I love the hand. Other hands in particular, ace-jack off, made a play with it, did well with it. Basically I waited, in this case, where I was at, where I folded some hands I would normally play, I played a little bit tight because of the fact I had to wait for my positions here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Well, let's stick on poker for a bit before getting into UFC and the other things you've done in your life, because that's what most people know you from, but you've been around the poker world for a while. Looks like your first cash was in 2005. How were you first introduced to poker?
My dad taught me poker when I was 9 years old. Back then it was 7-card set and 5-card draw. And he also taught me about blackjack, which I love to play. And he taught me about horse racing. And he said the only way to follow a horse is with a shovel. Don't bet on him, which he was absolutely correct. But I enjoy it. A day at the races is fun, but not every day.
Yeah, not every day. So when did you start, after being introduced to it at a young age, when did you start playing it seriously? When was your first time in a casino or something like that?
I think like a lot of us, when Moneymaker was in 2003, when he took down the World Series, it really became prominent, watching on ESPN. And that's when I started, working on the game of Hold'em. And then my first tournament at the Borgata in Atlantic City, I made the final table, small night tournament. Then I played the celebrity poker tournament at the WPT at Commerce, made the final table, which was a lot of fun. And then I started going into the World Series. And Hustler and Commerce in LA are two of my winning casinos. And I think before tonight, card player, I was up about 340,000 or so in winnings on the pro circuit or the tourney circuit. And then I like playing on Hustlers Monday night panic games, the cash games they have there. I played a couple of those this year, I've done very well in those. And then card player, with the stats I was running up and stuff, they honored me by calling me the top 10, number 8 out of the top 10 best celebrity poker players in the world about 9 years ago.
Wow, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, Gabe Kaplan was one, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Tilly, Tobey Maguire, pretty cool field.
Are those any of those names that you've played with before? You ever get into Tobey Maguire's game?
I played cash game with Tobey Maguire, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Any memories? Did he berate you in any pots or anything like that?
No, he's a pretty tough player. He's a very good poker player. No, I had one night with him and Nick Cassavetes rather, famous director, writer. I did The Notebook, and Leonardo Dicaprio was at the table that night. Joe Francis from Girls Gone Wild. So it was a pretty wild table. This was back around the Molly's game times.
So it was around the Molly's games time. So did you ever play in Molly's game?
No, it's too big a game. I wouldn't play that game.
Too big a game, but you did play with all those guys. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's a pretty good player, yeah?
Patient player. I only played him one night, but he's just a really nice guy.
That's very fun. Super exciting. I'm guessing you weren't too starstruck in those games. You're pretty...
No, I grew up in Malibu. I moved from Philadelphia to Malibu.
Just another day for you.
It's another day. I don't get starstruck that easy. Steve McQueen, the famous actor, a legendary actor, was one of my good friends, essentially one of my best friends the last 6 years of his life in Malibu. And when you grew up there, we were never rich. We were middle class, but you're shopping next to movie stars all the time, and I mean, they're just people, And quite honestly, a lot of times when you meet your heroes and stars like that, you're going to be maybe intentionally a little disappointed more than whatever, because you think of the people you see on the screen.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. You wouldn't be starstruck growing up in Malibu with friends like Steve McQueen. But you mentioned you didn't grow up rich, and I think you were born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Is that right?
Tulsa, Oklahoma. I spent 4 years of my life in Dallas, Texas growing up, which I really cherish because the Southwestern hospitality and upbringing is very important.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is my hometown. Eagles forever. And I love the East Coast, the mentality there. It's a straight line. Like you or don't like you. It's as simple as that, right? But great people.
And it wasn't hard for you fitting in Malibu? People weren't too stuck up or anything like that?
No. But again, back then, you didn't have to be wealthy to live in Malibu. We were middle class. And we went broke a couple times as a family, and together as a unit came out of it. My dad always provided us a good living. I learned a lot of my entrepreneurial spirit and the way I run my companies and everything, and my father, and it was a great upbringing. No, the people were very, very cool. Back then, it was kind of like Frankie Avalon goes to the beach. I, became a surfer, very serious surfer mentality, point break lifestyle, not robbing banks, of course. And martial arts, started training with Chuck Norris's fighting partners, got second-degree black belt in Tang-Soo-Do, the art that he started when he was in the Air Force in Korea. And I had a judo background before that, but that's where my martial arts background started. Then I got heavily into kickboxing and surf and fight and train and, have fun.
And a story that you've told a bunch of times, but I want to ask you about it here because it's so fascinating, is that you found your long-lost brother and that really ended up kind of, leading into this whole future for you. So what was that story like?
Well, I never knew that I had a half-brother. And my dad had me watching boxing out of the womb and teaching me boxing as a kid, teaching me how to take care of myself, saying you're going to get stood up at school, you need to do this, you need to do that, which I did everything he told me to. He said, bullet comes out, you punch him right in the nose, keep punching. So that's my mentality. Thank you, Dad, I love you. He's not with me anymore. And, we were always watching in those days, the heyday. I mean, you had Hagler and Hearns and De La Hoya and Tyson. And in the late 80s when Tyson was making boxing, bringing it so popular to the forefront again, where it was the water cooler conversation on a Monday the way the UFC is today, out came this debonair, handsome, James Bond-style announcer with this incredible voice saying those famous 5 words, let's get ready to rumble. And I became a fan, and they kind of run his name on the screen. It said Michael Buffer. And I owned telemarketing companies in my 20s. I was very much into telemarketing, very successful at it, doing it legally. I was the Wolf of LA, not the Wolf of Wall Street, and not hurting anybody the way he did. Sold office supplies. And we had phone books for every city in the country because we didn't have the internet back then. I never saw my last name in a phone book. So when I saw his name on the screen, I'm like, what's going on here? Long story cut short, 6 months or more goes by. People are stopping me on the street. My friend, is that your brother? Or the guy that goes, let's get ready to rumble. I go, no, my brother's Brian, the man I grew up with. And I was going to San Francisco, and I told Dad, I said, Dad, this, and here's this man. We watch him on TV. Do you have any idea who he is? He said, I think that's your brother. Now, I was like 28 years old. Whoa, I would have driven this off the side of the road at that point. Just kidding, but in such shock. So long story cut short, Michael was doing a small fight in the Valley in California at the Reseda Country Club, a popular place, used to have small fights. So my brother Brian and I convinced my dad to call him and, leave a message. And Michael called him back. They got together for lunch. Turned out to be his long-lost half-brother, long-lost son. Last time he saw him was when he was 2.5. My dad was in World War II, had gone overseas, was married briefly. At 20, I never knew he was married before my mom. He was together with her for like 56 years. So all this came about, and he said, son, I never told you, but I had a son. I haven't seen him since then. Sent a check off to P.O. Box, did whatever I had to do, blah, blah, blah. And Michael was raised by foster parents under the name of Huber. His mother had passed away at an early point in his life, but she had put him up with his family before, if I had that correct, and they were named Huber, and he lived what he calls a Leave It to Beaver lifestyle. Had a great upbringing, great parents, step parents, and when he went in the Army during the Vietnam War, they looked at his birth certificate and said, you're not Michael Buffer, you're not Michael Huber, you're Michael Buffer. So, had that not happened, I'd be saying Michael Huber on the screen, this never would have happened.
So how much credit do you give your brother and vice versa? What sort of an influence do you guys have on each other's careers?
I give him tremendous credit because it was him and my having not a premonition, but an epiphany one night when I watched a fight. Riddick Bowe Holyfield won in 1992, in November of 92, when everybody went crazy when he did the Rumble. And I used to go to see fights all the time in Vegas, and I went back to my room and started writing incessantly notes I couldn't stop. If I was his manager, what I do, where to put this, trademark this phrase properly, put it on the tip of everybody's tongue. And I read that Pat Riley had trademarked three-peat. I made like $1.5 million off licensing on it, and my mind started to expand more because I'm a businessman. I'm a marketer and a brander. And I wasn't happy with what I was doing. I was making a lot of money at a beach house, living the life of Riley, like 2.5 men minus the alcoholism, having a great time. And I basically decided, to talk to him. And I said, listen, I'm burned out. I'm making great money, but I just don't enjoy going to work anymore. I do it because I have to do it. Let me sell my company, quit with the money I have in the bank, trademark this phrase properly, but I need to become your manager and your partner. And I'm going to put you everywhere possible in sports and entertainment and make you richer and more famous than you ever dreamed. And he liked that. He said, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out if I'm going to give all this up. And there we go. That's where it all started.
Wow.
So I thank Michael for getting me in that, which in turn the UFC came along in 93. And in 95, I had Michael do the UFC 3 of the shows, and he couldn't continue with them. We had a huge contract with WCW Wrestling, and it would have been hard for him to continue. And it took me about 1.5 years to work my way and convince the UFC to let me be the announcer. And I co-started on Friends as their announcer, and that gave me the fodder and the credo to say, hey, look, I feel like a girl waiting to be asked to the prom. You'll get asked one more time. It's been 1.5 years. Let me be the off-gun announcer. I'll help you build this brand. I'll do much more than just be the announcer, but I need to grow with you with the sport. And I knew it was going to be the biggest thing in the fighting sports. I knew it was going to be the biggest thing ever. And, sometimes, like Tom Cruise said in Risky Business, you got to say, what the F? Roll the dice and just go for it. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, it seems like in your career you've had those moments where you've just gone for it. And I think it was on Steve-O's podcast that you referred to those moments as like the best poker hands that you've ever played.
It was the best poker hand I ever played.
Talk about that metaphor there. What are the similarities between poker and, approaching life like that?
Approaching life in poker it's the same. It's a fighter's mentality. You got to know when to be offensive, defensive. Got to know when somebody's going to knock you out or you're going to knock them out. You got to read the personalities and It's not just your skills, but, you know, the mental attitude, the preparation, everything involved. I apply all those aspects to my business life, my personal life, my work life, my poker life, and I've done a lot of, you know, never as a pro, but I've certainly had my share, you know, toe-to-toe. And it's just the attitude, warrior spirit.
Warrior spirit. Let's talk about the growth of the UFC, because when you were starting out in '93, I'm sure the UFC looked much different than it does today, where it was pretty much everywhere.
Very, very different. And, you know, back then it was a spectacle, and now it's a sport.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a sport for a long time. It was the fastest growing pay-per-view on TV when it was a spectacle. People took note of it. I stuck with it through thick and thin. It almost ended before Dana White and the Fertitta brothers took it over, which was the savior of everything. And thank you, Dana White. You know, he's a maverick. We wouldn't be where we are without him. He's got a great team. I'm proud to be part of that team. It's a rocket ship going uphill. And I have a first-class seat, and I love every bit of it. And, you know, I have a lot to thank Dana for and everybody. But as a team, we've all worked together. I'm doing this for over 28 years. Very passionate about it.
Yeah, you mentioned it being more of a sport and less of a spectacle.
Well, it's still a spectacle, but it's a sport.
Quite a spectacle, yes. How do you think it's gotten past the stigma of being too violent or, I don't know, too scary for TV? Has the public perception changed?
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. And back in the beginning with UFC 1, 2, and 3, I can understand that. You know, we're basically no rules and no time limits and people holding hair and, you know, doing kicking and headbutting and all that, which I love headbutts. But anyway, it had to become a sport. And it gained respect. It's now the 5th most watched sport in America, even ahead of hockey. And it's growing all over the world. Fast and fast and fast. And you got to realize that these men and women that put their blood, sweat, and tears on the line in the octagon are, as Charles Barkley once said to me, like the most highly conditioned athletes in the world. The skill factor, tremendous skill factor in boxing, tremendous skill factor in every sport. But in this sport, with jiu-jitsu, and that's why they call it mixed martial arts, you got to know everything. You got to have an answer for everything that comes at you. So it's more than just a sweet science. It's a science.
Yeah.
You know? So, it's not something you can just jump into, right? Has been proven by people that try to walk in the octagon to think they can survive it. No. I'll show you a 135-pound man or woman that'll take out a 200-pound man or tie him up like a pretzel, and they'll be tapping out for their life. It's fascinating. It's really cool. And the personalities of the sport, the fighters are so great. You know, it's awesome working with all of them.
Who are the standout personalities in UFC right now?
There's so many right now. I mean, you've got Sean O'Malley and John Jones when he fights again. You got Conor McGregor, who has that it factor, you know, that it will never end. There's just a lot of personalities coming up. It's full of a lot of people. Every time I think I've seen the greatest fight, 2 months later, the greatest fight happens. Everything I've seen the greatest event, 1 or 2 events later, the greatest event happens. It's awesome.
What are the highlights when you look back on your career? What are your favorite fights or just the favorite things you've been a part of?
It's impossible for me to say that. I can only give you examples. And one of the prime examples is when they had the Ultimate Fighter series in season 1. They were 40+ million in the hole, and they rolled, you know, a large amount of money on that series on Spike TV. And Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner went at it. And if you understand ratings on TV, it went from like a 4 share to like a 15 share because everybody's calling everybody up, watch this fight. And that just took off from there. And smart marketing and Spike TV made us, and we made Spike TV. I don't even know if Spike TV's around anymore, to be honest with you, but it was around then strong.
I don't know if Spike's around. I definitely remember Spike, though, and remember seeing all the fights on. So a lot of big personalities in UFC. Joe Rogan is, of course, a very mainstream personality. We're doing this podcast. He's one of the best podcasters of all time. What's your relationship like with Joe? Like
brothers. We worked together forever. Tremendous respect for Joe. He's a great guy. He's a very tough guy in his own right. His martial arts credo is huge. But he's very passionate in the sport, as I am, as Dana is, as all of us are. And he and John Anik, the commentators, make the best commentating team in fighting sports, in my opinion, if not sports. But the passion shines through, and that's how I live. I live my life with passion. I recognize Joe's passion. And what he's done in his career is, you know, being the fine, great comedian he is, and his great career there, the UFC, and breaking down the walls of podcasts to give all other podcasts a chance, you know, making the huge contracts with Spotify that he makes. And he's just knocking down doors, you know. Tremendous respect for Joe Rogan. And I love calling him my friend.
What do you think makes him such an effective communicator and interviewer?
Tells it like it is. You know, not rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
said it like it is, what comes up, and he's an extremely intelligent individual.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back to the Friends cameo, the episode that you were in, because that's a pretty big pop culture moment.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
Basically, I got a call. I had been asking the UFC for well over a year to be the Octagon announcer and to grow with them. Like I said, I'll help you build this brand, but I got to grow with these announcers. It fell on deaf ears. I announced my first UFC in 1996. Where I actually managed a fighter down there with my only reason of mine, with my tuxedo in my bag, was to convince them to let me announce the prelims. And then 6 months later, after saying no to me over and over again, they called me to do UFC 10, which I did on 2 days' notice. Went to Alabama when the other announcer couldn't make it. Announced it, thought I did a good job. Okay, it's time to hire me. Didn't hire me. Then another 6 months or so goes past. I get a call. Hey, they want you to co-star on Friends, right? As yourself, as the Octagon announcer. Do you want to be on Friends? Yeah. So I met him on the set, and I think I said earlier, I just basically said, it's time to hire me. Not it's time back then, but the time is you need to hire me. I said, I've asked you so many times. I'm going to ask you one more time. And seriously, I thought this, I'll ask you one more time. I will never ask you again. Let me be the Octagon announcer, grow with you the sport. And I have the media contact you don't even have, and I'll help you get on TV shows, which I did. Whether it was Jimmy Kimmel or Jay Leno or whatever, I did everything I could to help him. And I said, let's make a deal. I feel like a girl waiting to be asked to the prom, and nobody's asking me. Best poker hand I've ever played.
Definitely. Did you get to spend any time with the main cast of Friends?
Yeah, we rehearsed all day on Tuesday and filmed on Wednesday.
Who was the nicest of the cast?
All very nice. Lisa Kudrow, sweetheart. Jennifer Aniston, lovely. Matt LeBlanc I didn't meet till the day of filming. But they're all extremely nice.
Yeah, great cast. All very memorable. So one story that I've heard you told that's very interesting is you severed your ACL once while you were announcing a fight, and the backstory of it is that it was actually from a rolled ankle in a poker tournament. Is that right?
Yeah, I rolled my ankle with the Hustler in a poker tournament. Went back, had to go back for day 2, the final day. Woke up, it was engorged with blood. Went to the hospital, had the blood taken out, got a pair of crutches, went back and took 3rd place.
Wow.
30,000, couldn't walk. Going to Toronto, Canada that next Saturday. Biggest UFC in history, 55,000 people, sold out at the Rogers Arena. And then when George St. Pierre, at the end, I did the whole show. I couldn't even stand on my leg on Thursday, but I did the whole show like I normally do on Saturday. Jumped up, spun around, did this, did that. And then when George walked out, he lunged out when I said his name, George, rush. And I bunny hopped back like I always do. And when I landed on the ankle, it wobbled and my knee exploded and I severed my ACL. So I gave him the loudest, painful Pierre I've ever given in my life, and you can see me limp out, hop out of the octagon, but I didn't fall, thank God. Wow. So it's all good.
Yeah, way to recover from that. So it sounds like a big part of how you've gotten so far in life is really just perseverance, not letting people tell you no and things like that, whether it's bouncing back from an injury in your martial arts career or things like this. What advice do you give for people who feel discouraged or, they reach a wall and are unmotivated?
Set your goal. Find out what you're passionate about. If you can monetize it, then you're going to be doing something that you won't call work. You'll call it a lifestyle. Live your life by design if you can find that. But believe in yourself. And also know when to pick up your chips and find another game if it's not working out.
Yeah. Great advice. And you've really made a career out of your voice and your catchphrase and just being so marketable. How can someone market themselves like that? What advice do you have for people to make themselves a brand?
Learn from others, but don't copy. Create your own unique style. Just keep going for it. Ask for the job. Don't wait for the job to come to you. Whatever you're choosing to do in your life. With your own unique style, then you become a brand. And then you build from your brand there. And there has to be a base to build. My brother was the HBO boxing ring. Mine obviously was the UFC Octagon. And I have many different businesses out there. Now I have the top-selling new bourbon, Puncher's Chance bourbon, which is called the top 5 best-selling bourbon in America. I got my cologne, It's Time cologne. I have a bottle in my bag, which is the top seller. It was #1 seller on Amazon, going in all the stores. Coming out with my new It's Time energy product, which you saw me have at the poker table, which helped me yesterday, which is mostly natural, if not all natural with everything. We have no sugar in it, 15 calories. It's got amino acids, B12, vitamins. I try to come out with products I truly believe in. So I'm expanding my brand. One of the biggest areas of my business is the videos I do. Birth of babies, announcing you like you're champion in the octagon. Weddings, I probably do 5 to 10 weddings a week.
Wow.
People write me at my website, brucebuffer.com, or I'm in the top 10% or 3% of people that film cameos, which is a big thing. Cameo.com. I do a ton of cameos every week, which I love doing. Yeah.
Does it ever get, I don't know, too much? You ever feel like you need a break from the spotlight or people asking for photos or having to do the enthusiastic cameos?
You know, I don't, because I'm helping people. I'm paying for it, whether they're paying for it or not. I'm making people happy, and the thank you notes I get really bring tears to my partner Kristen's in my eyes at times. It's just so incredible if you're part of somebody's wedding or whatever. But
yeah,
listen, with great responsibility, with I don't want to say greatness on my part, but when you reach a certain level comes great responsibility. And in our case, the fans are what keep us in business. The show's not about me; it's about the fighters and the fans. And there's no fan I will ever turn down unless they're rude, which rarely, if ever happens, especially for kids and stuff like that. I mean, this is a moment, you know, it's your obligation. That's what we're here for. And those that don't realize or appreciate that, they're missing the point.
Yeah, it's a great mindset. Well, just a few general questions as we wrap up here. But first, you are wearing this Angel AI patch. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, my friend Pavan owns this company, Angel AI. I don't pretend to be an AI expert, but it's really fascinating. I think AI is an incredible thing. It could also cause some issues in the future for some people. But he has developed a software that's very unique. And I love this because during this whole thing, I've had an angel on my shoulder.
Oh, that's great.
Beside my little mama over here. Love your mom. And just go check out Angel AI. It's incredible what they do. I'm not an expert, so I don't want to pretend to fill in. I think a lot of us aren't experts yet. We're all learning. But it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's good to give them a shout out. So, yes, just a few general questions to wrap up. What is something in the world that makes you hopeful?
Peace.
Peace?
I don't like war. I don't like confrontation.
Maybe a little irony there, given that your line of work.
It's sport.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And what is...
Nobody's ever died in the octagon.
Yeah.
A lot of broken bows, a lot of broken egos, but nobody's ever passed away. Boxing has years where 5 or more pass away at a time. You know, it's a tough sport.
Yeah. What is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
My younger self?
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything.
Oh, okay.
My dad was a great guidance for me. My mother was great guidance. My support I got from my brother Brian. My attitude is just to go for it, you know. Believe in yourself, go for it, but be realistic. Set realistic goals for yourself. I can't think of any path that I've been through in the past. Maybe change, you know, a couple personal friendship situations, things that happen. But outside of them, I'm very happy.
Yeah. Were you that confident when you were young? Did you know that you were on the right path?
I've always had a level of confidence. You know, you win like you're used to it. You lose like it doesn't bother you, as my dad always said. And you got to be tough, you know. But the main thing is I treat everybody with respect. I'm not better than anybody else, right? We're all equal. Sure, don't announce against me. I mean, you know, play poker against me, I'm going to come at you, right? Mm-hmm. Fighting, whatever the case might be. But I treat everybody with respect. I treat people the way I want to be treated. And I just don't be cocky, you know? There's conceited ego and there's constructive ego. I come from the school of constructive ego. And we all need an ego to succeed.
Can you talk about the difference between those two?
Well, conceited ego is like, it's almost like a false ego. It's like you're saying you're better than this guy, you're better than that girl, you're better than this, you're better than that. You're not any good, I don't want to talk. Got no time for that.
Yeah. Great advice. All right, last question here. So we've talked a bit about the parallels between poker and other sports and competitive activities. What's your favorite life lesson that you think can be drawn from poker?
It's just like the movie. Know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You know, it's just you got to, you know, you're going to walk in and two things are going to happen when you put your chips in. You're either going to get knocked out or you're going to knock the other guy out. So be aware of that. Pick your spots. Be patient. BSC, balls, skill, and confidence. But we all need that little luck factor in everything we do in life.
That's great. Great advice. And Bruce, thank you so much for talking to me, especially after getting out of a tournament. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, I'm thrilled and I'm coming down at the same time. It was awesome.
Are we going to see more of you this summer?
I think the WSOP is over for me. I've got a lot of travel coming up, but this was my biggest win so far, and just passed the $500,000 mark of winnings, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, super great accomplishment. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.